Hello, I'm Terry Meir. I'm going to be your host today. And we here at Sustainable Kashi are proud to provide these free classes each week to help connect us to each other in this ever so disconnected times. So welcome, and we hope that these become a little form of comfort and a way of getting us all back together. Feel free to learn more about our project at sustainablekashi.com. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat box and we'll make sure we answer them at the end. So today we are talking about getting ready for your solar powered life. And we're very lucky to have Kelly Reagan with us today. Kelly is a personal trainer and a yoga instructor. She's been doing permaculture since before it was cool. I know she was one of the first people I met over there in the Orlando scene. And she's been kind of living this lifestyle for, as long as I've known her. So about 2 years ago, she decided to follow her passion and the environment and start diving down the solar energy industry rabbit hole. And today she's going to share some tips with us on getting ready for solar power in your life. So Kelly, welcome. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing everything you have to share with us.
I'm really happy to be here. I prepared a little presentation. I'm going to start sharing my screen. So it's helpful if you have maybe a pen and paper nearby. So the presentation is primarily solutions that you can apply. It's going to apply to most types of dwellings. A lot of these solutions are simple. You've probably heard of them, and some are a little bit more obscure and a little bit more involved. So it just really depends what your personal situation is, if you're living in a home or an apartment, and where you're living. And I work primarily with single family dwellings, so single homes, and I also do commercial solar installation. But this information is going to be relevant to anyone using energy and especially paying a bill. So make sure you have your paper and pen. And if you have your utility bill handy, I do talk a little bit about the utility bill and how to read it and what kind of things that you're going to see on common utility bills that you should be aware of, especially if you're paying the bill. So this is me. That's when I was learning permaculture at first. I'm an energy consultant, like Terry said. I'm a fitness instructor. I've been gardening my whole life, and I'm really working on producing some seeds and distributing them to the community right now. So we're going to talk about energy consumption, and we're really going to be focusing on these 5 questions today. So where exactly is my energy going? So of all the money that I am paying for energy, where is it being invested? You have to identify what you're using before you can adjust it to suit your needs. So we're going to go over your bill and how to identify what you're using and what you're actually being charged for, which is not the same. So we're going to identify why these things are important. So why do I need to know these things before I consider any kind of alternative energy pathway for my living situation or dwelling? And then we're going to go over some ways to decrease your consumption. Like I said, some simple ways and some more involved and maybe more costly ways to eventually decrease your consumption in your home. And then I'll go over a couple of things if you are in a single family dwelling, of just looking at the very, very basics of, is my home good for solar? And if it is, what are the benefits of this? So I just need to minimize this. So where are you using the most energy? One moment, I'm going to minimize this video here. So where are you using the most power? So this is a generalized view of most dwellings in the United States, and especially in the South, in Florida, where I am and where Sustainable Kashi is. So first, we're investing most of our money in AC and heating. So immediately you can think that anytime you can turn off your air conditioning or your heating, that's going to save you money, and that's going to decrease your consumption. So if your home is cold, it's much better to put on more clothing than to turn on your AC unit. It's better for you. You adjust your bodily temperature, and it's better for the planet because you're not consuming as much energy. And it's better for your pocket because you're not paying for more energy. If your home is warm, you can have fans. And then there's other ways to decrease the AC consumption, but those are the most immediate, easiest, don't cost you a thing ways to decrease your AC and heating needs. Just don't use it. Secondly, your water heating is going to be consuming the second highest. In most people's bills, AC and heating is about 40%, maybe 30% for some homes, 40 to 50% for other homes or dwellings. And then your water heating is another 18 to 20% for most homes. So the water heater, I'm going to go over a couple of tips on that later. Then if you have a pool and your pump is running all the time, you can quickly address that by purchasing a more energy efficient pump for your pool. And then the next thing that's going to take up a lot of energy in this day and age is going to be the lighting in your home or your space in your electronics. And we'll go over a couple of ways to save on that. And then your appliances. It depends on the family, how much you're using. If you have a family with a lot of children and there's constantly food being cooked and clothes being washed, or if you have a lot of people in the home and there's a lot of activity, obviously you're going to be using a lot more energy and appliances than, say, a couple and both of them work and are not in the home 8 to 10 hours per day. So again, this is very specific to your dwelling and who is in your dwelling. So how much energy are you consuming? And the reason I like to really highlight this is because I run around Florida and I knock on people's doors and offer them solar consultations or energy consultations. And most of these individuals tell me that they have their bill on auto pay because they can't forget to pay it. So it says down here, become acquainted with your bill. You have to pay it each month or your power will be cut. People are not putting their bill on auto pay because they have no issue with the bill. They're putting it on auto pay because they have to pay it. We have to pay an energy bill. We have energy needs and it's going to be an expense. And most people are aware of that and they prioritize it and they put it in their auto pay. And so what happens is a lot of people are getting digital bills and they're auto paying their bills and they really don't know what they are paying for. So in order for you to understand your energy situation, you have to understand what you're paying for. So that involves you hopefully finding and reading your utility bill and seeing, what am I being charged for? So there's an example here. This is a mock Duke bill, and Duke is one of the most costly and most common energy providers in the state of Florida. They have huge coverage areas. And these are the parts of your bill that you want to become acquainted with. So when you are paying a company, you're effectively renting your power. So you can think of the difference between renting power and owning power, as in renting a dwelling or owning a dwelling. There's benefits and drawbacks to both situations. It depends what works for you. Notwithstanding, we're all going to have a power bill and we all need to know what's in it. So your power bill is going to have your usage graph, and it's going to tell you how much power you've been using over the months. For this bill, it's showing 2019 half and half 2020. And then on the left-hand side, ascending, you can see the kilowatt hours, which is what you're being billed for, as in the amount of energy you're using. So then underneath that, it says current usage per meter, and it's going to tell you what the actual readings were when the power company took the readings to create your bill, which is effectively just a way of saying, we read your meter, this is what it said before, this is what it said now, and this is what you are responsible for. So then your billing details is going to break it down into exactly what you're paying for. You're paying a customer charge, you're paying an energy charge, you're paying fuel charges, and you're paying this asset securitization charge. That charge is due to an investment that Duke made, and now their customers paid for that investment directly through the bill. The fuel charge is the cost of the fuel to get your energy from one place to another. And your customer charge, which never goes away, even if you have solar power, if you installed with an installer like my company, you're always going to be connected to the grid by law, and you're always going to be responsible for the customer charge, which covers their lines, and it covers other areas that the power company needs to maintain. And then you also get taxed. So there's also taxes, and then sometimes, depending on the bill, there will be other fees, and depending on the area. Some utility companies, if some of you are like with OUC, you might have other things in your bill. So why does all this matter? Why does it even matter, the energy? Why are we talking about it? Why is it relevant? Why do I need to care how much my power bill is? If I have to use energy, they're always going to charge me, and I can just put it on auto pay and forget about it. So it matters because your utility rates are always going to go up. So most Americans that are in detached single family homes who are responsible for their power bill are going to be paying between $1,500 to $5,000 per year. That's an average. Obviously, we're talking anywhere from 2 to 5 bedroom single family homes. That's why it's such a big gamut. But this is what we're spending on energy every year. Why is that important? Because every year these rates go up, and that is completely irrelevant to climate change and all these other things going on. There's always going to be a rate hike because of inflation. It's always going to be 2% at a bare minimum. Most companies like Duke or Seco or big national companies, they raise their rates by 3 to 5% per year, every year, year after year. That's how it's been, and that unless something incredible changes, I don't really see that changing. So it's important to mitigate those cost increases, to save yourself money and time, and also to just be more conservative with energy. So how can you change it? What can you do? How can you price protect your energy? So this is where we're going to start going over some of the things that you can do to easily and affordably and quickly decrease your consumption. We're going to go from the easiest, the most affordable options first. So if you are in a brand new home or a new high-tech apartment building and you have top-notch insulation and it is not an older building, then you don't have to worry about as many things as someone who is working with an older dwelling and something that might need more intense uh, repair prior to going solar. So we're going to go over both techniques. Just know that if you're in a newer home, some of the later things are not going to apply to you. And if you're in an older home, you really have to identify where you are using the most power and then come up with a plan to work on those specific issues that are, again, it's unique to each home. It just really depends what you're working with. So these are the easy, quick fixes. These are things that are typically going to be under $100 investment. They're going to be fast and they can produce, 10 or 20% utility bill changes in homes that have issues with these particular things. So the first is a smart thermostat. These are not the same as a programmable thermostat. These thermostats actually learn your habits and manipulate the energy in the home or your heating or your AC to work at the most optimum level to save the most energy. For some homes, that equates to, on the low end, a 10% difference. For some homes, that could be 15% or more that you could save with a smart thermostat. Now, if you don't use your AC and your heating, a smart thermostat is not going to save you a lot of money. That's for someone who is using their AC and their heating, right? So then another thing you can really easily and quickly do is a water heater timer. There's direct line. So if your water heater goes straight into the wall, it might be a little bit more involved. You might have to hire someone if you're not a DIY type of person. You can get water heater timers at any of the hardware stores. It basically just turns off your water heater when you are not using it. So at night, instead of having to heat all this water, it's going to turn it off, and that can produce a substantial savings, especially in a home that has a larger water heater. So it has a really big tank and it's constantly trying to keep that water warm. So then energy saving lighting, LED technology, and there's other, there's compact fluorescence as well, but LEDs are great. They save a lot of money. They last a really long time. They are a little bit more costly up front, but they last longer and they provide great lighting options. So considering what your lighting is in your home can save you money if you're not using energy efficient lighting. It can really make a difference, especially in a larger home. So these are the easiest solutions. These are the least invasive and the simplest. So some more involved options. Here, you might have to hire professionals or put up an investment. These are things I would only consider if this is a long-term dwelling or if you have a responsibility for one reason or another to repair and invest in these things. If you are going to install something like solar, it is very important that you address these things prior to any type of installation. It can save a lot of money. The first thing, and it's pretty simple, is to reseal windows and doors. If you're in an older dwelling and the seals on the windows and doors are allowing the heat and the cool air to move in and out of the home, then you're just leaking power. And if you're using the AC on top of that, your AC is working harder than it needs to. You can invest in resealing windows and doors. It's $15 to $20 per window from what I was looking at. And it just depends on the home. Usually, if you have those issues in the home, it will be obvious. You'll feel drafts coming from the windows. Another option that involves a little bit of an investment is to upgrade the water heater. There are some tankless water heaters that work. Usually it's for less people. So if you have just 3 people in the home, you can upgrade to a small tankless water heater, and it does not have to heat up the water all the time. Another thing, if you have a pool, you want to make sure that you have a variable speed pool pump so that the pump isn't running at its maximum capacity at all times. And that can save quite a bit of energy, especially if you have a large pool. The one of the most costly things, however, it's very important, is if your AC unit is faulty, or if what you're using to heat your home is faulty, you might be spending way more money than you should be. And it's very important to consider upgrading your AC if it's at that point in your heating system. So then in some homes, we don't know where the energy is going. So some homeowners, excuse me, make a lot of changes and there's still an issue and they still cannot figure it out. Or sometimes I will go into a new construction home and I will see that for some reason or another, this home is spending more money than it should be, considering the people living with it in the home and comparing it to their neighbors' electric bills and usage. If there is some other issue, there is one other option that is really cool. There are energy monitors. They cost less than $100. There's different companies that make them. It is a device that you install on the breaker box. It has clear instructions. You can hire someone to install it, or if you know about electricity, it can be DIY'd as well. And what this does is it's going to monitor what each breaker is outputting. This is extremely useful when you have a situation where you don't know where the energy problem is. So you sealed everything, your AC unit seems to be working great. You're implementing all these techniques and there's still this really high usage. You're reading your bill, you don't know where the energy is going. Maybe it's time to consider getting an energy monitor and seeing if there's an actual issue with the electricity in the home. So once you've done all of your troubleshooting and you've gone through and you've selected the options that are realistic, um, useful, beneficial to your situation, then once you get your energy to its optimum consumption, now you can consider solar power, which is what I do. I really love solar energy. It can help a lot of homeowners, especially in the state of Florida, where we have an abundance of sun. So it's really simple. I like to break things down. It's really not very complicated. Most single family homes in the state of Florida can benefit from solar. They need ample sunlight, and you laugh, but I have had people ask me about solar and they show me their home and there's tons of shade. In that case, the home it's already quite insulated. And sometimes it's better to keep the trees. It just depends on the situation, but you do need a lot of sunlight. So if there is tree cover on your home, don't even consider calling your solar professional. First, consider opening up the roof if it's something you really want, because you need this good south or southeastern roof exposure. Not all homes are the same. In this case, in this picture, you can see this customer, we had to put the panels on several roof surfaces because of the vents and because of the consumption, which was high. So the third thing is that your roof has to be in really good condition. It goes without saying, there's no point in installing a solar PV or photovoltaic system on a surface that doesn't have integrity. So your roof has to be in really good shape. So this is what a bill looks like when someone has gone net zero. So net zero is just a funny way of saying you're producing all of your own power. That is the aim when you go solar, is to produce your own power. A lot of people ask about having a larger system and reselling to the power company. That can be done. It depends on each company's net metering policy. That's how they deal with customers who are on solar energy and connected to the grid, connected to their company through the grid. Some individuals like those arrangements. I find that there's just not a good return on the investment. You end up paying for the panels, and the resell rate is never going to be what the power company is going to charge someone else for. So you're selling your power at a lower rate. So it's great to consume that power that you're making at a lower rate, but to resell it to the power company is not always, it just doesn't make a lot of sense financially, because it's not a huge return on your investment. So if you look at this bill here, this net zero bill, it says meter readings, and then it's highlighted received kilowatt hour balance. So this happens to be a Duke customer who went solar, and this is what their bill looks like now. They pay $10.79, and at this current billing cycle, they have 180 hours of extra power. So your power company works like a battery, basically. When we go solar, we install these systems. You're grid tied, you make your power on your roof, and then it's collected by the power company. If you manage to be a net zero customer and your roof is great, then you might be just having this customer charge. And if you have an overage at the end of the year, sometimes they will write you a check and that will cover your customer charge. So some of the benefits of solar are that you own your own power. So I talked earlier about renting your power, and depending on a rental, or owning your power. So renting versus owning a home, there's advantages and drawbacks to both. So for solar, you can cut out the extra charges. When we looked over the bill, those fuel charges, when you are producing your own power, you don't have to pay fuel charges. You don't have to pay extra fees. You just pay your customer charge and taxes on your customer charge. If you have overage, your customer charge might go away. If your solar system does not produce energy, then you will get billed by the company for whatever you go over. So another benefit to the solar and doing this home photovoltaic system is that the government is providing a 26% tax credit. So if you file taxes on over $10,000 worth of income, you should qualify for the tax credit. That's not money in your hand. That is a credit towards your tax obligation to the IRS. please consult a CPA when you're considering these energy saving tax credits. Your CPA, your accountant, is the person most well versed in tax law, and they can inform you of the benefits of installing the, solar or other energy saving improvements on your dwelling or your home or your property. One of the best benefits, in my opinion, to solar is the price protection. Your panels are going to last. Most panels are guaranteed between 20 and 30 years, depending on the panel. And that is usually directly from the manufacturer. So once you get these panels, they're good to go for a very long time. And while you use them, you can collect the energy from the sun, and you don't have to pay every time the power company increases their rates. Whereas when you rent power, you have no option. The rates go up and you have to pay. So solar is a way of price protecting. And you can also enjoy cleaner energy. It is not completely clean, and no technology that we have produced at the moment that I've found is completely clean, but it is definitely cleaner than using fossil fuels. And then the other benefit is that you can participate in widening and expanding our grid. It is really important that collectively we consider our power consumption as a whole. We consume a lot of power, and our population increases. If our population increases too quickly, the demand skyrockets, and it's very hard for producers of energy to keep up with the demand. That is why these individual systems are more efficient way to power and create a grid than relying on these larger systems. So these are some of the benefits to solar. And now you know, and that concludes the presentation that I prepared for today. If anyone has any questions regarding solar, they can communicate those to me later. I am going to be logging on in a little bit to Facebook. So I'll give it to Terry now.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge in the solar field. We actually do have a bit of questions, and the first one being, is it illegal to be off-grid in Florida?
That is a very, very good question. Is it illegal? Technically, from what I have read and found and learned, it is not illegal to be off-grid. However, it is illegal to install a solar PV system without a permit from your local city or county. And you must abide by their rules. And if you are not a certified contractor and you don't know what to fill out where correctly, your permit might be denied and you might not be allowed to proceed with your project depending on the size of the project. Is it illegal? Technically, you have to consult your location because there are city ordinances, there are local ordinances. It's very complex. And unfortunately, the only solution is to contact the local authorities where you live and maybe contact the power company. My company is legally not allowed to install a non-grid tied system. My hands as a professional are tied. In order for us to obtain the permits to install these systems on dwellings, we have to be a licensed contractor, and this is how we have to operate. You as a consumer, there are different rules, but once again, there are laws and rules that apply to you as a consumer, what you are able and not able to do. And I am not able to answer those specific questions. That would be your local county, your local city, wherever you are zoned.
Yeah, I think to further answer that, we're going to refer people to Joel Salatin's book, Everything I Like to Do is Illegal. So it's a great book, and it does go into a lot of those issues. Another question
The
we have
loophole.
are, what happens to the solar panels during a hurricane?
I should have had some pictures available for this, but there are pictures of some of the systems that the company Unicity, we are powered by Unicity, but some of the installs that we had done in the Panhandle after one of the big storms, you have to think that these systems are attached to the supporting beams of a home when they are attached on the roof of a home. As long as they are installed correctly, they should put intense downward pressure on the roof, which actually helps during a hurricane to basically put downwards pressure on the structure. So I actually have pictures of homes that have shingles stripped completely off the side of the home that does not have solar on it, and the side that has the solar was just fine. Most solar is now rated to around 130 to 150 mile per hour winds. So that is going to become a concern more on the coastline, and probably further south in Florida, maybe some areas of the panhandle. Um, it's not likely that you're going to get 140 mile per winds in a lot of Florida.
I imagine if you do, your solar panels aren't really the biggest issue. So,
Yeah, I mean, usually, yeah, 140 mile per hour is pretty serious.
so for our next question, someone asked if they're curious about what you think about doing single solar powered items like a solar powered water heater or a solar powered heater. So individual solar powered items versus whole solar systems.
I did forget to mention that there is solar lighting that I do recommend. There's some in-home solar lighting. I know some people using lighting that's solar indoors. It allows them to turn off their lights. I think some of those systems are really great, especially, for example, if you're on a well, right, and your power goes out, guess what? You don't have water now because you don't have a pump to pump your water. We're on a well here where I live. So, for example, looking into having an individualized well solar, system to power your pump, that I think that's a fantastic idea. And setting it up with a battery and everything as an independent little unit. I think that really comes down to the home, the dwelling, and sort of applying our permaculture principles. Like, is this useful? Is this affordable? Is this a good solution? So I think it just depends on your home. But yes, I think that using items that are powered by the sun is always a great idea, because right now we don't have to pay anybody to use the sun. I mean, just think about it. You don't have to pay anybody. You just go outside and it's there. You don't even need to own property. You can collect the sun in public. Um, you can't collect crude oil in public and refine it and put it in your car. You just I mean, if you figure out how to do that, do tell me. But um, yes, the sun is a great resource. And if you can harness it and use it to power your life, please do so. I think we should. But I think, the benefit versus the cost has to be considered if you're thinking about it as a financial and investment.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I wanted to ask you a question, one that I know you're personally qualified to answer. And that is, have you found any ways of getting children involved in this adventure? Like, have you involved the young ones into the solar powered crusade?
You know, that's actually a really good thing for me to think about. No, I have not thought about that actually. And it is something that we should consider. We do this thing called sunraising for charities. And that right now, basically, we just take some of our profits and we invest into companies that are doing cool things. There's a company that we partner with called Off-Road Box, and we help them install these single units that power villages, and then they have a water filter inside the solar powered tower, and it provides clean drinking water for people in remote areas. But we could invest in programs to get more education out to children. That is not something I've considered, but it's definitely very important. I mean, I work to teach my daughter about it. I hadn't really thought about sharing it with a wider audience of children.
Well, I look forward to seeing the progress you make on that adventure. Well, Kelly, thank you so much for coming and being with us today, taking the time to be with us. Do you have a way of getting in touch with you? What's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, you guys can find me personally on social media through my name, Kelly Reagan. You can find me on affordablefloridasolar.com, on Instagram, at affordablefloridasolar. And those are the easiest ways to contact me. And you can find my telephone number and email through those methods as well.
Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us. And we're going to invite you to come to our Facebook community page, in which we'll continue the conversation. And please share with us your biggest takeaways from the class and post any questions there for Kelly that'll help you get down this solar powered adventure. I want to thank everybody here for being on the class. These calls don't happen without you, without your time, without your donations. Thank you for making them all happen. I want to thank Amy Zelt for making the technical magic happen behind the scenes. It's wonderful to be part of this. The truth is that we're all solar powered, whether we're plants or whether we're taking photovoltaic energy. We all rely on the sun for life here on this planet. So the more we can tap into that truly regenerative resource, the quicker and the more easily our lives can head towards a balance with this planet. So thank you for walking this road with me, and together, this work is some of the most important work we can do. I look forward to seeing you all next week, and have a wonderful evening.